everyone, it's Rihanna and welcome back to another video. So today we are wrapping up 2018 with the very last What I've Watched video for December 2018. We are going into a new year, into a new month, but alas, we must talk about everything I saw in December. So let's get on with it. So the first thing I watched in December 2018 was actually a film. It's called Green Book and I believe it's coming out in around March time nationwide in the UK. I actually saw this at a advanced screening, and this tells the story of an Italian-American man who is a bouncer turned personal driver for a black man in the 1960s. This man is a doctor in music, he's a classical pianist, and he decides he wants to tour in the deep south of America. And if you didn't already know, deep south of America in the 1960s wasn't the most equal time. There was a lot of racism, a lot of just pure horrible things going on. So this basically tells the story of the Italian man trying to kind of accept the doctor, befriending him and like protecting him in the deep south. Now this film stars Viggo Mortensen as the driver Tony and Mahershala Ali as the music doctor, who is called Donald, and they just have the most perfect chemistry on screen together. They start off their friendship very kind of patchy. Tony's very sort of slobby, you know, he doesn't speak well, he's not very well educated, and we have the total opposite in Mahershala Ali's Donald Shirley. He's a doctor of music, he plays classical music, he's very well educated, very proper, and kind of the clashing personalities of that really work well together. And as I say, the two actors just have perfect chemistry together and their comedic timing is so good. Like, this isn't necessarily a comedy film, it's more of a drama comedy film, and the film just hits all the right spots in all the right places. It is heartwarming, heart-wrenching, funny, just it has everything you want in a film. It's very feel-good, but also it's just got its moments where it really hits you hard. I really enjoyed Green Book. I really hope it doesn't fall under the radar in the UK, because I feel like it probably fell under the radar in the US. But I'm hoping this gets lots of award buzz, so lots more people see it, just because it has such an important message. The next one I watched was actually a Netflix original, and that is Dumpling, which stars Danielle McDonald and Jennifer Aniston. It tells the story of the daughter of a previous beauty queen. Her mother is obsessed with beauty pageants and does them every year. Like, she hosts them and she helps the girls prepare for them. And then we have Willa Dean, who her mother nicknames her Dumpling, who is a plus-size girl. She really doesn't care, who decides to basically protest against her mother by entering into the pageant. And when she does this, she sort of starts a revolution. This other girl who's plus size joins, this girl who's very gothy joins, and her best friend joins the pageant. And it's just a very great mother-daughter story. I think Danielle McDonald is amazing in this. I am such a huge fan of her now, ever since seeing her in Patty Cakes. I thought she was fantastic in that, and in this as well. Just, it's such a good, feel-good film, but also quite emotional. Very good for a Netflix original, to be fair. Next up is a TV show. I was so late on watching this, but I finally finished Daredevil Season 3. Now, I would normally do a review for Daredevil because I've done reviews of the previous 2 seasons. I've just been so busy, so we're going to talk about it now. Daredevil Season 3 was possibly my favourite season. We have the story of Matt Murdock, him recovering from the events of the Defenders, sort of trying to gain strength again, while we have Wilson Fisk out of jail, now living in a penthouse in New York. And there's also stories within the FBI and these agents called Nadine and Benjamin Poindexter. I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but the thing with Season 3 for me is just that it was a very personal season, especially for Matt, for Karen, for Foggy. You get to know so much more about their characters than the other seasons have told you before. And just the way they shoot all the scenes between Daredevil and Wilson Fisk, like how he's this little voice in his head, and the action sequences are phenomenal. Like the hallway fight scene in episode 4 is crazy good. I thought it was just so brilliant and clever in the way that they built up to the climax of the ending of this season, and I'm very sad that it's over. I could happily watch like 100 seasons of Daredevil. Next up is a film from the 90s, which is True Romance. This was actually written by Quentin Tarantino. It tells the story of a pop culture nerd who marries a cool girl, and they accidentally steal a bunch of cocaine and have to sort of elope to Hollywood to escape the mobsters that are chasing after them. It's completely mental and dramatic, but in the best way possible. We have Christian Slater as the pop culture geek and Patricia Arquette as the cool girl. Their characters are Clarence and Alabama, and they just work perfectly together. They just have this kind of strange chemistry. Obviously they're complete opposite people, but their romance is just completely perfect, even if it is violent and a lot of people get beat up. Really enjoyed True Romance. Next up is a film I was quite excited for, actually, just because it was written by the guys that did Lord of the Rings, and that is Mortal Engines. Now this is based off a book I have not read, but the basic concept of Mortal Engines is that it's a dystopian future and all of the major cities in the world have now gone mobile. They're on huge wheels, and London, which is the main sort of city on wheels, drives around wanting resources from smaller towns and villages that are on wheels as well. And we follow our main protagonist, who is called Hester, who is on a mission to kill one of the head engineers of London, named Valentine, played by Hugo Weaving. Along the way she meets this guy called Tom, who works in the Museum of London with history and all of that jazz, and they just kind of go on an adventure to try and stop Valentine from destroying this peaceful haven where all of the cities clam together, but stationary. It's very complicated, and I didn't describe that well. You know, this film was written by the guys who did Lord of the Rings, so I had high expectations, and as cool as the concept is, and as much as I love the opening action sequence, I feel like there was just so much more that could have been explored here. I'm not sure how they tell it in the book, but the love story in this film between Hester and Tom didn't feel necessary to me. They just didn't really have much chemistry. But Cities on Wheels is just freaking cool, okay? The explosions, the chases, it's cool, okay? I enjoyed it for that. Next up was another Netflix original film, and that is Mowgli, Legend of the Jungle. Now this is the second live-action Jungle Book-ish story to be released in 2 years, I think. The last one came out in 2016, so yeah, 2018, 2 years-ish. Now, I was intrigued by this film because it was directed by Andy Serkis, and as we know, he is the king of motion capture, so how could this film possibly look bad? There were ways. I personally didn't think the animals looked very good in this version of The Jungle Book. They looked far too animated in comparison to the human child. I think in Jon Favreau's they just looked so real. It just worked so much better. Because when you see like animals that are all CGI and don't actually look real with this human child, then you're just sort of taken out of the story. You can't quite fully believe it. And just in general, I wasn't really interested in the story. I know it's the same story over and over again of The Jungle Book, but I feel like Jon Favreau's was just a little bit more light-hearted and brought me back to my childhood, which is why I enjoyed it more. The next thing I watched was actually a TV show. I had been meaning to watch this for such a long time, and that was The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel Season 1. I finally finished it. I really enjoyed this one. It is set in the 1950s, 1960s, and it follows Midge Maisel, who's living in New York with her husband and 2 children. She's the perfect idea of a housewife. She's just perfect. She makes briskets and everything, but it all goes downhill when her husband leaves her for his secretary. And one night she sort of stumbles into this comedy club in New York, in the Village in Greenwich, and she starts doing stand-up, and she's actually really funny. So she decides to turn her life around and pursue a career in comedy. Now this show was written and created by Amy Sherman Palladino, who also did Gilmore Girls, so obviously the dialogue here is on point. It's so fast, it's so witty, it's just amazing. I love all the cast members. I especially think the main actress who plays Midge, her name is Rachel Brosnahan. I completely butchered that, I'm sorry, but she's great. I absolutely love her in the show. She's just such a great female protagonist to root for, and I just really enjoyed The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I can't wait to get stuck into season 2. The next thing I watched was a comedy special, and that was Donald Glover's Weirdo. I'm a huge Donald Glover fan. I love him as an actor. I love him as a musical artist, as Childish Gambino, and I just thought this was hilarious. He has such great delivery and he just really doesn't care what people think, which makes him a great comedian, and it's just so strange seeing him back in the day when he was doing stand-up and not today when he's like a huge actor and doing music and everything. It's just so funny. I absolutely loved him. I was laughing throughout. It was a great comedy special. Next up, I saw one of Disney's latest, which is Wreck-It Ralph 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet. This one was a fun watch. I can't really expect anything more from Disney than it being a fun watch, having some heartfelt moments and just you enjoying yourself throughout the whole film. Ralph and Vanellope venture into the internet when Vanellope's game breaks and they go exploring, and Vanellope realises she might not actually want to go back to her game. So Ralph sort of struggles with their friendship, yada yada yada. You know, it's a good time. If you enjoyed the first one, you'll enjoy this one. They really did some cool stuff with the internet as well, how they sort of surf through it. I just think the little sort of people going to different websites was really funny. Next up, I saw Die Hard. I actually went to go see this in London in one of the special cinemas that show old films because it was one of the anniversaries of Die Hard and it's one of my boyfriend's favourite films, and I hadn't seen it before, but now I have seen Die Hard twice, may I add. There's the whole debate about whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas film, and in my opinion it is a Christmas film. The whole sort of plot is him trying to get to his family for Christmas Eve and, you know, getting to spend Christmas with his family. There just happens to be this huge obstacle in the way that is Alan Rickman as a German terrorist. I mean, you all know what Die Hard is about by now, right? I mean, it's been a good few years. Usually I'm not a huge Bruce Willis fan, but Die Hard might have made me like him a bit more. I just think the action was great. Bruce Willis was great as John McClane. It's super funny. And yeah, as a film overall, I just really, really enjoyed it. Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber is great as well. It's Die Hard. Like, who doesn't like Die Hard? Keeping with the Christmas film theme, I finally watched It's a Wonderful Life. It's been a long time coming. It tells the story of George Bailey, tells the story of his life, his ups, his downs, and then it comes to Christmas Eve and he's on a all-time low, and George debates whether or not to kill himself, but an angel actually comes down and shows him what life would have been like for the people around him without him there, and it shows a very depressing life, and he decides that he would rather live his life for what it is. Spoilers for It's a Wonderful Life if you haven't seen it, but you know, it's been 60 something, even more than that, 70 years, people, okay? Okay. It's just a classic film. It's a very sad film. I'm not sure I want to watch it every year for Christmas, but it does get you in the sort of being thankful for your family mood, just because it's one of those films. It gets you really hard. But yeah, It's a Wonderful Life. I mean, I can't say a bad word about it. Yet another Christmas film, I know. I mean, it was December. How could you expect me not to watch Christmas films? I saw the Christmas Chronicles, which was a Netflix original. This was just a fun time. We actually watched this on Christmas Day, and we all just really, really enjoyed it. It tells the story of two kids who, one's a teenager, one's sort of going into her teen years. The brother doesn't believe in Santa Claus anymore, and the little sister does. And when they kind of break Santa's sleigh, they must help Santa save Christmas. It's a fun time. Kurt Russell plays Santa Claus. It genuinely makes you feel like you can believe in Santa Claus, this film does. Like, just the magic of it all, the elves, the atmosphere. It's just a great Christmas film, and I feel like I'll be watching it many times for years to come. It seems I actually watched quite a few films in December, but we are coming to the end of the list, bear with me. The next film I watched was another Netflix original film, which everyone has been talking about, but apparently I was late to the party. I finally watched Bird Box. Now, Bird Box tells the story of a woman, Mallory, who is now having to live in a world with two young children where they cannot see, just because if they look, this monster will come and basically show them their worst nightmare and make them want to harm themselves and ultimately kill themselves. It's a very dark film. But basically we go through two different timelines here. We see Mallory just as the events start to occur, and Mallory 5 years later when she has these two young children trying to find a safe haven. Now this film was ultimately so creepy and so scary. They did it very well. I didn't think they'd go so hardcore on the graphic blood and gore for this, but they did. Kudos to you, Netflix. I was so freaked out, I genuinely didn't want to go outside the next day. I was like, you know what, it's all good. I'll keep the curtains closed. I have my laptop, I have electricity. I could probably live like this for a long time without having to go outside and being haunted by that evil monster. Yeah, I really enjoyed Bird Box. Freaked me the hell out. Great concept for a film. Sandra Bullock was amazing. It's all been said really, hasn't it? The last film I want to talk about, I'm very excited to talk about, is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Originally, I wasn't insanely excited for this film. I'm not the biggest Spider-Man fan. There's been too many films for me to care anymore. However, I heard lots of people raving about this film, saying it was great, and I'm so glad I went to go see this film because I like Spider-Man now. Like, what the hell? Basically, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse tells the story of Miles Morales, who's living in New York, and he has a Spider-Man in his universe, but the Spider-Man unfortunately dies and he takes his place. But at the same time, the villain, Wilson Fisk, is trying to combine dimensions and get his wife and child from a dimension, another dimension, into his dimension to get them back. And while this is going on, all different Spider-Man and Spider-Woman basically all blend into Miles Morales' universe. And they must all band together as a team to defeat Wilson Fisk before he ends up destroying the whole of New York. I thought the animation here was absolutely fantastic. It looked like a comic book, and I don't really know why they don't do more comic books in animation, just because it works so well. The voice acting here is great. Absolutely loved the guy who voiced Miles Morales. He's such a great character, and this film was super funny. The soundtrack is great. I was fully invested in this. I thought the fight sequences were done so well. And I'm just amazed that I like Spider-Man now. I was really invested in this film. It was such a fun time. And I'm just really glad I saw this to round up my films of 2018. So there you have it, guys. Those were all the films I watched in December 2018. We're moving into a new year now, so this is insane. I may or may not continue my What I Watched series. If you guys want me to, please let me know down below in the comments and let me know what you watched in December down below in the comments. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I'll be doing new videos for you guys very soon. All my social media links, including my Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and Letterboxd, are down below in the description if you want to come follow me. And thank you guys, as always, for watching this video, and I will see you very soon. Bye!